We can no longer pay the interest on our debt.
It's hopeless.
It is hopeless. And it's getting worse. That's the amazing thing. Even with a central bank digital currency that they can manipulate in the middle of the night, I don't see that happening. There's another big problem looming. Okay.
The worst day on Wall Street since the crash of 1987.
We're now down 43%.
This could be the most serious recession in decades.
Protect your retirement with a gold and silver IRA. Learn more at sdbullion.com/IRA.
Welcome, Tim. We are going to be talking about stacking silver and gold, but we also have some information from an article that I want to run by you, Tim.
Okay.
I think it really speaks to the situation we're going through right now in the bond market, especially.
Bond market, yeah.
Yep.
The soon to collapse bond market.
Really? Okay.
Well, I'm not buying any bonds, are you?
No. Here's the problem. Nobody wants U.S. Treasury bonds. Once a symbol of America's economic might and accepted as a global coin of the realm, they have fallen badly out of favor with serious consequences for taxpayers, investors, financial markets. Dude, I would probably say banks too, governments, politicians. I think it has ramifications on us as stackers.
Don't forget all the ones that you and I bought without knowing it. All these U.S. citizens here own treasuries. Responsible for them too. To make sure you pay the interest on those treasuries you own.
Oh yeah, we're gonna get to the
interest. Is that dude figure still in the debt clock?
U.S. national debt, $33.8 trillion. Debt per citizen, $100,000. Debt per taxpayer, $250,000.
The interest alone has reached around $670 billion. Just the interest payments every year. And from that other chart that you had, it's growing dramatically. We can no longer pay the interest on our debt.
It's hopeless.
It is hopeless. And it's getting worse. That's the amazing thing.
It says too much supply and not enough demand have collided to create the worst stretch for U.S. government bonds since the Civil War, Tim?
Yeah, considering it was only half the country that was trying to raise money, that's really bad comment. That shows you how desperate our situation is.
Yeah, it stunned me when I saw that. I was like, well, I don't...
So who is actually buying these bonds? What they're saying essentially is nobody is buying these bonds.
Nobody's buying it.
Well, the fact that they're discussing it now means it has long ago already started. It's a dire situation.
It's a dire situation, yes. So the latest auction was horrible, and the one before that was bad. Check this one out. How the bond route stacks up to past bear markets.
Well, it's already past the dot-com bust.
Yep.
The slope looks very similar to the 2008 bust.
It's one of the reasons why I think we're seeing gold and silver going up is because the dollar and the bond market are suffering. Let's see. The government is borrowing more than expected, increasing the supply of treasuries and dinging their value. Meanwhile, the Federal Reserve is selling down its own holdings, dumping yet more bonds into the market that really doesn't want them. So the Treasury needs it. They do the auction. Nobody's buying it. And the Fed is selling into that market too. No wonder it's going down.
And none of these bonds pass the ping test.
The what test?
The ping test.
He's talking about my pocket pinger, right?
Yeah.
Nut. All right, let's get back.
Well, they tried pinging it, and it didn't work.
It didn't. Our debt is not pingable.
That is definitely not pingable.
All right. So this is from the Congressional Budget Office, CBO, and they're notorious for getting it wrong, by the way.
Well, they also make everything look better than it really is.
Exactly.
And that doesn't look very good.
This is worse, right?
This is a lot worse. Well, look at the graph. It is exploding between now and 2040. I mean, this
Yes, that's a projection by the CBO.
The currency
Yeah.
is going to be totally worthless.
So they're making GDP assumptions as well as spending.
That's right.
As well as
they're
interest.
assuming that the GDP is actually growing.
Exactly. Globally, we're not doing well with GDP. So
Well,
the United States is
but
in tough
Bidenomics
shape.
should save us, I would think.
Yeah, well, of course. China and Japan, once reliable buyers of Treasury bonds, have been selling them to prop up their weakening currencies, Tim.
Yes.
A decade ago, they had more than 22% of U.S. government bonds. Today, it's a third of that, 7%.
Yeah.
It's
China
horrible.
alone is half what it was, just in the mid-teens.
Yeah, let's bring that up here.
Well, Japan is, their economy has already collapsed several times, so they looks like they're headed in that direction again.
1.1 trillion in debt. They're our largest. China used to be the largest.
It used to be almost twice that.
Wow. They're down. And by the way, this is as of January. I can't wait to see the stats this January
Yeah,
coming up.
apparently China's still selling down our debt.
They're selling
gonna
it
be
like crazy.
behind the UK pretty soon. The UK's they'll never make good on their treasuries either.
Yeah.
I'm a little confused by Luxembourg.
Switzerland? That's all they own.
Yeah, they're very small countries, and you got 318 billion. Is that what that is?
Yeah.
And 291 billion.
Yeah.
Even the Cayman Islands. Well, that's probably Sam Bankman-Fried there. That 285 billion. These numbers are absolutely crazy.
They are. They're nutty.
But
It's going down.
the dramatic reduction in the amount of U.S. Treasuries that China is holding it's eye-opening. Should be eye-opening for people, because years ago, the ECB issued bonds and they expected, China will just swoop in and they'll buy them all. And they didn't buy any of them.
U.S. banks are stepping back. Tim, they bought in when interest rates were so low, essentially zero or just above.
Yeah.
Now rates have gone up. Bank of America, it says, has $132 billion of unrealized losses, and they've sold half of their Treasury bonds this year. They don't want it.
No.
I don't want it. You don't want it. The banks don't want it. Countries don't want it. Who's the buyer of last resort here, Tim?
The United States Congress.
The Fed buys it, right?
They just buy it on our behalf.
Right.
And someday, because we have promised to pay our debt, which is why we're still the world's reserve currency, and I don't see that happening. And even with a central bank digital currency that they can manipulate in the middle of the night, I don't see that happening. The debt is just too much to get rid of.
Our government responded dramatically a few years ago during the pandemic
Yep.
with stimulus,
Yep.
with even more debt.
Yeah.
The Fed soaked it all up. Prior to that, they stepped in, bought up toxic assets. They were going to buy whatever it needed to be bought, and they cut rates. I see that happening again. But this time, Tim, I think at this point we lose the dollar.
No, the dollar's already lost a lot of value. There's another big problem looming, okay? And as the president says, it's building the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. Isn't that essentially what he says? Well, they started in San Francisco. They're giving free needles to the drug addicts in the streets. But that's step one. That's as far as they've gotten from the bottom up. Seriously, they're not doing anything. And Bidenomics is a joke, not just a myth, but a joke. So if you're going to start from the bottom up, you give the free needles to the drug addicts in San Francisco.
Right.
What's step two? From the middle out? Good question.
We can get back to silver and gold now. So gold and silver have done something amazing over the past week and a half, too.
They are. We're seeing a lot of selling, and it's intelligent selling. It's not emergency selling. It's intelligent.
So
selling.
people are coming in and selling their gold and silver in your shop.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of it.
And it's not panic selling.
It isn't at all. It's everybody. If we're discussing life in general, they tell me what their projects are that they're working on. What people don't want to do is they've got a chunk of money in the bank and let's say you want to build a new leach field for $5,000. They don't want to take that money out of the bank because the bank keeps asking them, what are you doing with the money? So, well, I've got this gold here and I can always buy it back.
Right.
Okay. And that's what they're using for money.
You said the magic word bank. And that reminded me of an email I got from one of my faithful subscribers. I won't say his name, but he sent an email in, Tim, that said this. Went into TD Bank today and saw, beginning September 2023, we may require identifying information from any individual conducting cash transactions in our stores. Mm-hmm. This may include a valid government-issued photo identifications, name, address, date of birth, social security number, occupation, firstborn, favorite color. I mean, they want everything, right?
Yeah. The beginning point is $200. $200, they open up a case for the IRS. So the IRS now has all of the information. It's not just for the bank's use. It goes directly to the IRS. I mentioned this before.
Yeah. $200.
$200. That is it.
Is this your fault?
I think so, because even my daughter has made a $100,000 deposit in cash, and they said, "Oh, you must be Tim's daughter."
Wow, it is your fault. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I found out that I am depositing more cash than the 2 supermarkets we have here in town.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
But people are even being questioned when they take the money out of a bank, and it's none of their damn business. They have no problem if they want to see how I'm doing business. I have receipts for everything. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's no big deal. And, I walk into the bank and handle a lot of cash, and they charge me the fee to deposit the cash. And it's really annoying. But it's control. That's all it is. Like everything else in this government, it's about control. And the only way out of this is to throw these people out. That's the only way out of all this nonsense, new banking regulations, asking you what you intend to do with the money. If we didn't have these people in the White House and in the Congress, there would be none of that. Because there is still freedom built into the Constitution.
Absolutely. Sure is.
And people have a constitutional right to tell them, hey, I'm not giving you that information. So I guess I'll go to another bank. It's the pressure that Congress has put on the banks.
It's cash. I'm telling you right now.
Well, that's why
they don't want it.
But that one of the reasons that I called my congressional rep to ask these questions, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And the intern that answers the phone say, "Okay, I've written all your concerns down. You're better off calling his Washington number." So I call the Washington number. It's the same thing. It's an answering service. Well, I've written down all your concerns, and I'm sure he'll be getting back to you. Well, they never do because he doesn't know what we're talking about. They don't read the bills. They don't have to read the bills. Mm. And there are lots of new federal banking regulations in the so-called Inflation Reduction Act. But you're never going to see what they are because they don't read the bills. We never read the bills. What is it, 4,000 or 5,000 pages?
They should stick term limits in that. Just slip it into a bill. They'll never read it.
Well, that's true.